All right. So, yeah, here's the problem sometimes with learning and uh, and not really knowing what learning is. What is learning? When I said before that you should already know this stuff from geometry because you learned it, no? So so say I go and I ask the question. This is 30 degrees, so I go here and I make this about 30 degrees. Go here, and so I make a triangle like this. Don't draw this. And so I go like this and make a right triangle here, and I tell you that this is 30 degrees. And because we already came up as to why that is true. So you got a 30-degree triangle, no? And we took a long time the other day to just memorize about any triangle that's 30, no? 30, that's 90, then this is 60. What's the length of the opposite side for what we've been doing? What's the opposite side of 30? What did I say? 31. Don't question it. We already did it. It's 31. And just and I told you opposite of 60 is 61 and whatever. And then this turned out to be, what did 30? No, this is not 1. 60 what? What was the opposite of 60? Root 3. Somebody quickly is like, yeah, it's root 3. Root 60, root 3. And it was 92. So these numbers go like that. And if somebody asks me what is sine of 30 degrees, and then we do that SOHCAHTOA thing like that, no? And sine of 30 was SOHCAHTOA, O over H. And sine of 30 degrees was something like 1/2. Something is like 1/2 or whatever, no? So what we're going to do right here is not get these that are inside, but what happens when the triangles that we're trying to make, because we're moving it around the circle, and the closer it gets, see, the closer it gets to the x-axis, and make a triangle here. Okay, the closer it gets to and actually, when it does get, when this radius I drew here, let me do it in this color. This is the radius, gets on top of this. We no longer have a triangle. And so when somebody asks me, what is the cosine? Let's go with the cosine, no? Let's go with cosine. What's the definition of cosine? Anybody? What's the definition? What side is cosine? Adjacent side over the hypotenuse. Okay. So now, so we understand. I think, hopefully, you fully understand what's going on here. That this is adjacent. This is theta. This is called adjacent because this is opposite. This is the hypotenuse. So it would be. Let's give it a letter. Okay, so basically, let's say this is C, and let's call this A, and let's call this B. That when it does eventually get to be on top of here, it's no longer a triangle. It's not, we don't have a triangle anymore, but we do have that the adjacent side will be the same length as the hypotenuse. Do you understand what I just said? Eventually, when this gets here, when this point gets here, then this thing is the same as length as that. So this is going to be C over C, and the answer is 1. Cosine of 0 degrees is going to be 1. I don't need a calculator. I fully understand that that's what it is. But let's say you guys are so used to using calculators, and you go, that's what the calculator says. I don't care. I guess that's what it is. Go ahead and get your calculators. Make sure it's in degrees, because we are using degrees right now. Go ahead and do cosine of 0 degrees. What does it say that the cosine of 0 degrees is? What's cosine of 0 degrees? What's cosine of 0? Cosine of 0. Oh, it looks to be 1. Oh no, the calculator says it. I know it. I don't need a calculator. I know it. So cosine of 0 is 1. What's sine of 0? Now, let me go. My teacher teaches. Can you think? Can you reason it out before you use a calculator? What do you think is the answer for sine of 0 degrees? Anybody? Reason it. What do you think it is? It's 0. Why would it be 0? Because what's the definition of sine? What's the definition of sine? The opposite side of the hypotenuse. But what's going to happen eventually when this hypotenuse gets to here, then this opposite side becomes 0. Yes or no? Yes? Like people are like, oh. Eventually, when this triangle is no longer will be a triangle, it will no longer have this side because it will become 0. Yes? So that would be what? 0 over what? Over whatever this hypotenuse length is, whatever an actual number it is, 0 over any number is what? Not any number, but 0 over any non-zero number would be 0. Any 0 because it still be a length. So 0 over, so the answer should be for sine of 0 should be, it should be 0. So that, put it in a calculator just to make sure you know what is, sine of 0 is what? Sine of 0 is 0. Yes, that's what it says. All right, so now, what's the tangent? What's the definition of tangent? The opposite, which can we just go easier, go like this. This is, let's go with this being C, and this is Y, and this is X. Better, because it's a length of X, this is a length of Y. So it would be, tangent of 0 is opposite would be Y over X. What would that be? Tangent of 0 is Y over X. But then Y is 0, no? It will eventually be 0. This Y value, when it's 0, this will be 0. And X would be some length, no? Some length, X. It'll be some actual number. So that's 0 over some number is 0. So it's going to be 0, wouldn't it? Tangent of 0 is 0. Is it? Put it in a calculator. Well, my calculator says that. Let me see. Am I wrong? Tangent of 0 is 0? Oh, it is 0. Oh, I'm not wrong. I am. Makes sense. Yes or no? We're good? And so now, let's figure out the rest of these then. Let's reason it out. So the closer we get, say, to up here, to like 90 degrees, reason it out. Let's go. What would be cosine of 90 degrees? All right. Don't put the calculators down. Put the calculators down. Now you start thinking now. Let me see. Think about it. Think about what's going to happen. Cosine. What would be cosine of 90 degrees? All right. What's the answers for cosine of 90 degrees? Anybody? Everybody. Cosine of 90 degrees. And the answer is 0. Look. I'm gonna make a triangle, and it goes back to a lot of people. I get people still, even after I said it on the homeworks, I get people going like this with triangles, with those reference triangles. People going like this, like that. I'm like, nonsense. I told you, no, don't do it like that. That's gonna be so. Anyways, so the closer you get to this here, say we're like right here. Your reference triangle will be like this. That's your reference triangle. And now this is X, and this is Y, and this is C. X, Y, Z. And then, okay, so this is your right triangle. Cosine is what? What over what is cosine? What letter over what? What letter? What's cosine? Sokatoa. X over what? X over C. But eventually, when this triangle, when this point gets here, x becomes what? 0, yes, no? So then this becomes 0 over some length, be 0. So cosine of 90 is 0. All right, that's enough. Hopefully you get it. This is so, you know what? That's the full explanation. But if you really just want to know what these are going to be, if the radius here is 1, so the x value is 1, so this point x is going to be 1, and the y value of this point is what? 0. What's the x value of this point here on the unit circle? And if the length here is 1, so what is the x value of this point here? 0, and then what's the y value? Huh? Yes? So what is the x value of this point? -1, and this y value is what? And this point on the unit circle, this is going to be x is what? 0, and then this y is going to be what? -1. All right. So now I will say this. If the radius is 1, I'm telling you that this length is 1 for the unit circle. That's why it's called as a unit circle, because the radius is 1. So if I say what sine of something, sine of anything, or I'll do sine of 0 degrees, it will be would be the opposite, which is y. Okay, say theta. It would be opposite of the hypotenuse, which would be y over 1. Sine of theta, and for this particular one, it'll be y over. So the hypotenuse is 1. So so you can just say on the unit circle, sine theta is y, cosine theta is x, and then tangent theta would be y over x. So now when I say, what is sine of 0 degrees? Say I go sine of 0 degrees is going to be the y value. So what's sine of 0 degrees? Sine of 0 degrees is 0. Cosine of 0 degrees is 1. And now we go here. Sine of 90 degrees is what? What's sine of 90 degrees? And what's cosine of 90 degrees? What's cosine of negative? Oh no. What's cosine of 180? What's cosine of 180 degrees? Put it in a calculator. Put cosine of 180. What does it say it is? -1. What's sine of 180? 0. Takes you long to put it in a calculator. What would be the cosine then of 270? Because that's 270. This is already 270. Cosine of 270 is what? 0. And what's the sine of 270? So let's do some problems now then. Oh, I didn't do the undefined one. Tangent. Okay, let's do this one. Okay, what would be tangent of 90 degrees? Tangent of 90 degrees. Tangent of 90 degrees. So what is this point again? Can somebody tell me what's this point? 0 what? 0, 1. And what's the definition? What did I tell you tangent was? Tangent of 90 degrees. Tangent 90 would be y over x, which is going to be what? What over what? 1 over 0. And what's 1 divided by 0? What's 1 divided by 0? What is 1 divided by 0? You cannot divide by 0. It's undefined. So the answer is undefined. Okay. In reality, if you just understood what we did, you don't need to be doing all this work that I'm going to show you here. Any point that lands on the x-axis, the answer is just the same. It would be something like, then what would it be? Let's do cosine of the angle is 0. So it doesn't matter where it ends up, the point, and what point they give you. They tell you it's 2, 0. They give you 100 and then 0. It doesn't matter because the ratio is going to be 0 for the opposite. For the sine, it'll be 0 over 100, which is 0. So let's see. What's sine of 0 then? Sine of 0 is the y value of it. What's the y value? 0. The answer is 0. You don't need to be doing all this work. The answer is 0. What's the cosine of 0? It's not 3. It's 1. The answer is going to be some kind of 0, 1, -1, or undefined when you do tangent or cotangent or whatever. So the answer for that one is going to be, why is it? Look, like I just said, x is 3 over c is 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. The answer is 1. Tangent would be y over x. Tangent is y over x, which is what? 0 over 3. What's 0 divided by 3? What's 0 divided by 3? 0 divided by 3 is 0. 0 divided by 3 is 0. 3 divided by 0 is undefined. So this is 0. Okay, so what is sine of 90 degrees? So at the end they give you points. They go, okay, you got 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the angle that matters. And if you get a 90 degrees, it's a 90. So you're going to say this is theta, which we already know is 90. So you can say cosine of 90 degrees. What's cosine of 90 degrees then? What would be cosine of 90 degrees? Cosine is what? X. So answer is 0. The answer is 0. You don't need to be doing all that. See, you know, we already. If you already understood what we did, you're paying attention. It is just a unit circle, and it will be 0. Cosine of 90, or if you want sine of 90, would be what? Not 4, but what? 1. Cosine of 90 would be what? The x value is 0. Cosine of 90 is 0. Tangent would be y over x, which would be what? Undefined. Undefined. All right. So I hope now we can just quickly get answers here. You don't need to be doing all this. You don't need sine of 180. What would be sine of 180? Say it if you know it. All right. Sine of 180. What is it? 0. 0 is correct. Cosine of 180. -1. Tangent of 180. Tangent of 180. Tangent of 180. Y over x. 0 over -2 is, what is it? 0. And if you get one down there, even if you get a fraction one, it still doesn't matter. It still be some kind of 0, 1, or -1. So what's sine of 270? -1 is correct. Sine will be -1. You don't need to be doing it. It'll be negative 1. Sine of 270 will be negative 1. Cosine 270. What's cosine of 270? 0. 0. Tangent of 270. Tangent is what? Y over x. Y over x. So it's going to be some number divided by 0 is going to be undefined. That is it. I'm going to give you like 30 minutes to finish that, turn it in, and then we can do the lesson for today. 20 minutes.